Welcome back. We are Outside the Box, a podcast where we are driving our performance in and around the city of Sugar Land. Today, we're talking about a pretty important topic about taking care of ourselves and recognizing some concerns, and we have a fantastic guest to help us do that. Ashley, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We're talking about burnout today. I think this is something that we all can relate to very much so.
Unfortunately.
But before we do, let's meet you. Ashley, tell us about you.
My name is Ashley Stakes. I'm a licensed professional counselor associate. The associate part just means I'm in my first few years of doing this. I'm supervised by a woman. Her name is Cindy Doyle. Great supervisor to have because she's also a first responder mental health specialist. So getting to learn a lot from her. And I work at a practice called Carrera Counseling Services up in the Woodlands. And our practice is dedicated to first responders. We're all specialized in trauma first responders, and some of us are first responders, become counselors. And surprise, I'm also a licensed paramedic.
Nice.
My previous career was 911 paramedicine up in the North Houston area. I was at Cypress Creek for a little while and ended my career with Harris County Emergency Corps.
Okay.
So this topic is very near and dear to my heart because specifically burnout and not being able to move through it is part of what got me out of the profession and into this one. So big topic for me.
I like it. Well, the conversation you and I got to have about this, kind of a humbling one. Like denial's great when you're not having to face it, but when it's in your face about, like, oh, okay, got it. What is it? Clinically speaking, what's burnout?
Clinically speaking, we can't really talk about burnout until we first talk about cumulative stress that certainly plays a role in it and in many ways leads up to it. So cumulative stress is what it sounds like. It's stress that we don't resolve, that just continues building. And there are very specific stages that this stress follows that eventually leads to this burnout state. And the first one is stress just beginning, just constantly being on shift, maybe always picking up overtime. It's that stress arousal state that looks a lot like anxiety. I got a lot of adrenaline, I've got a lot of cortisol, and I'm just living in that.
Okay.
And at this time, it feels kind of good. Like I'm not having a bad time, but here we are. I'm noticing the stress. That can lead to now I'm having a bad time because I'm getting tired. And I'm realizing that I'm living at this 10 out of 10 and I'm living with all of this cortisol. And now we're going to start to see some, we'll call them bad behaviors, start to pick up. Running late, delaying decision-making, maybe not making decision-making. So what's happening is the nervous system in the brain, it's a little fried. It's looking for a break anywhere that it can get it. And obviously the issue is we're not ever resolving it.
Yeah.
So it builds up more. And the final stage is exhaustion. And that's the part that leads directly to burnout because the first stage of burnout is exhaustion.
Yeah.
And this exhaustion looks much worse. Now we may pick up addiction behaviors. We may start turning to drugs, alcohol. Suicidality is also a big one that steps into the room at this point.
Okay.
Because we're living in a 10 out of 10 and we're not seeing any escape. So now we're looking for absolutely anything that it might be.
Gotcha. And I think it's an important distinction that you're talking about cumulative stress, but not a string of bad calls. This isn't complex traumatic experiences and compounding experiences. This is life.
This is the job. Yeah.
How you can come in primed, right? You're parenting at home, financial arguments, relationship stuff at home, and then coming into this is daily life, right?
Absolutely.
And not just the first responders thing, like human being thing here, right?
Yes.
We just kind of like live in this excitement world, and like back to our original discussion of like where you feel at home. I feel at home in chaos, so I just create my own chaos. That's it, right?
Yeah, and we can't talk about, or I guess it is an important distinction to make. It's not just first responders, but unfortunately, first responders are at a disadvantage. The shift work and the level that the job is at. It's people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
The stakes are as high as they can possibly be. There's no denying that. Your brain knows that and your body knows that. So that is this big adrenaline dump, this big cortisol dump. These are the stress hormones that are wreaking havoc on our systems with this work. And shift work doesn't help either.
Yeah.
There's and I wish I could have a visual, maybe one day I'll put one together, but we start ramping up these stress hormones about 12 hours before we're going to go on shift, because our brains and our bodies know I got to be at that 10 out of 10 in order to perform effectively. So we start building cortisol 12 hours before. And some people may notice this if you start getting grumpy as you're planning out what meals am I going to eat on shift? Where's, do I have an extra uniform as you're doing laundry? That kind of a thing. There can be this rising anxiety, irritability, something just kind of off.
Okay.
Cortisol's already on board. Once you get onto shift, adrenaline and noradrenaline join the party. Now we feel great. Now we're doing good. I can think clearly. I'm super medic and doing all the cool stuff. Awesome. Maybe we get a cool call, so I get a bigger adrenaline dump. And here I am just riding this high.
Okay.
Then I get off shift and I crash from it. So I go home and I'm on the crash side. And then it takes about 18 to 24 hours. It takes a good amount of time to clear all of that cortisol out of your body. So unfortunately, we're feeling ramped up, great and awesome, and then we come home and we feel awful. And how many of us don't always have 24 hours to completely detox from all of those stress hormones before we're doing it again?
Yeah. Man, so just the nature of the business that you sit and wait for something to happen, man.
It's working against you, yeah.
But yeah, we're supposed to rest. We're supposed to be able to sleep, all these things. And I think it's interesting. So we talk about all of the cumulative stress hormones, all this growth, or all this accumulation rather, and the trouble that it causes when we don't detox. And I think it's so peculiar that it's an incredibly beneficial thing that happened. Like, this is why the body does it, is to get us in this performance state. But what we get to choose is how we take ourselves out of the performance state to get to some of our other discussion that someone's like, well, I don't want to be relaxed at work. I got to be in this performance. Yeah, like the body knows, like you said, right? And it does.
I got to be at that 10 out of 10. I've got to be up here.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what are some, we hit exhaustion. We hit the not great behaviors. I think I know how to take care of myself with this one. Are there other things that come with this? What are some outward behaviors that start affecting other people around us? What else comes with that?
That is when burnout becomes more apparent. So we're in the cumulative stress, we roll over into burnout. It's defined, it actually is now a diagnosis in the ICD-11, which is one of our diagnostic manuals that we use. But burnout is defined as emotional exhaustion, an increased distance from one's job, where you stop feeling effective at your job.
You're tired of caring.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the big one that I think we all see, and probably the biggest red flag, is cynicism. And it can look like the grumpy old medic who just can't stand these people that are constantly calling, what the hell's wrong with these people? It can also look like, what's the point? And that is another big symptom of burnout, that like lack of achievement, like feeling satisfied. Maybe it's that you had a great call and you actually made a difference and you got to really paramedic that one. And I think we all know how great that feels. It's a moment when that doesn't land, when it's like, meh, I'll code them in 2 weeks anyway. There's no point in this. Like that. And from the counseling perspective, it's a big deal because it can be a personality change. And the big issue there is that if we enter a state enough times, so that can be the state of being angry, the state of joy, state of experiencing frustration, exhaustion, ineffectiveness. However often we are in a state, that can soon very quickly turn into a trait where it's a little more deeply ingrained and it starts to embody everywhere that we are. Because wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah.
And that's the bad one about burnout.
Is that where we start seeing the relationship issues with our phenomenal divorce rates that we have in our industry? Like that's, I don't have the energy to care about you really. Is this separate than like compassion fatigue and hitting this exhaustion, or are we just calling the same thing two different names?
I think it all is very similar but very different. It's kind of a splitting hairs, I suppose. Burnout would be sort of like the diagnostic. Here's the big experience. Here's how I would characterize it. But absolutely, everything is a Venn diagram. So there can absolutely be other circles that dip into it and mirror it and have similar but slightly different signs and symptoms, so to speak.
And this is where our awareness becomes key. That I go home tomorrow morning and here I am amped up, ready to go. And, you know, we get the frustration of family demands right out of the gate. And
then that also plays into, you got to remember the cycle. Family demands, I go home, I'm now detoxing. I am in kind of a negative nervous system state. I'm feeling like crap, coming down off of cortisol and adrenaline. You're shifting into that more parasympathetic nervous system state. So of course you're exhausted. Of course all you want to do is lie down. But your loved ones are happy to see you and they're so glad that you're home and like, here's the things that need to get done and can you do this? Can you do that? And whew. So it is a lot. It's a lot of this that plays into relationships.
Gotcha. Well, let's inject some hope that not all is lost just because we work shift work and because we accumulated tons of hormones to be ready to perform doesn't mean we have to be burnt out, right?
Correct.
What do normal people do? What are some things that our industry kind of at an escalated level can do in a healthy way? And then we'll discuss some of the choices that we make.
Some of the things that we try to do, but is maybe not the best approach. I think we have, and I have certainly done this myself, we've all reached for alcohol. We've all reached for which bar will turn on the margarita machine at 7 a.m. Let's all meet up, tell the nurses, tell, who else was involved in this call. Let's go do that. Sorry. But alcohol's it's not a good way to de-stress.
Yeah.
It may feel like it, but if we think of it from a perspective of we're detoxing from these stress hormones, we've just added another poison to our body. And I know that sounds a little dramatic. That sounds an odd way to think about it. But in many ways, it's the reality of it.
Yeah.
We're adding more to our bodies and to our systems to process out.
And I want to throw our inject in like we had talked about previously, that this is not you have to swear off alcohol for your entire life. Gotcha, guys. Okay. But this is the difference between socializing with alcohol involved and trying to detox, decompress, therapeutic use of, I air quoted it if you're just listening, therapeutic use of alcohol. There is a difference. We don't need to get into the whole debate on how people feel ethically about alcohol, period.
Of course.
But that's okay. So
if you're reaching for it to help you relax, if you're reaching for it as this lifeline, that this is how I'm going to detox from a stressful shift, maybe pump the brakes on that one. That's the one that I'm saying, hang on, wait.
Okay.
Try some of these other things first, and then have a backyard barbecue. Call your friends. Do it a little more mindfully. Because that is the one thing first responders are great at doing. And it's on my list of one of the things that we can help appropriately detox from the stress. It's connecting with friends.
Okay.
We're great at connecting with each other, talking to each other. Absolutely. We need to keep doing that. We need to keep leaning on each other.
Okay. So and anything specific socially or just not being isolated is a benefit?
Not being isolated, sure, because misery can love company, and that maybe isn't the best. We talk about positive connection, laughing, another great way to regulate your nervous system, just getting a really good belly laugh in.
So you're saying the memes I send my friends, I'm actually helping them?
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
You're welcome, guys.
Hugging, getting a hug from your partner. If you don't have a wife, girlfriend, whatever that may be, get a dog. Animals can also provide that level of nervous system regulation for us.
Okay.
And then the other two that people hate, I can feel everyone's eyes roll. I can see it in my clients too when I tell them. One of the best ways to help yourself out is to move your body and do some breath work. And I think all of us have been at that moment where that seems very silly. It seems very little. It seems like, using a tiny little screwdriver when I've got this huge task to complete. It seems so little, but moving your body, if you think about the hormones that you're trying to purge from your system, they're hormones that were designed to help you fight, flight, or freeze, or whatever it may be from a threat.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put them to good use. Move with them. Purge them out of your body, out of your tissue. Otherwise, it just sits there longer.
Okay.
And now that 18 to 24 hour range, we're looking at 24 hours. We're looking at a longer time. We can at least help move the body to safety.
So any range of movement, you're saying, or if I come off shift and I just have one of those nights, and I got some of this angst to work out, and I recognize that, so I'm going to go hit the gym, and I'm going to hit it hard. It's one of those, I need to lay on the floor for a few minutes and recover when I'm done with this. Is that still beneficial, or is there like a diminishing returns point of how much movement are we talking about?
There absolutely can be. You don't want to do movement that's going to further stress you out. You're working against your system. You're working against yourself. Some of this may be some trial and error, because I sometimes just a walk, go on a nice walk. That'll be plenty of exercise for you. Sometimes you do just need one of those like ass kicking exercise classes, where you just sweat and you feel exhausted. Sometimes that's exactly what you need. Other times, maybe yoga. Play around with it, see what works, see what actually helps. But any exercise that further stresses you out, don't do that. I'm not telling everyone, you need to become marathon runners, because no, not everyone's bodies can handle that want to do that. Figure out what works for you.
Nice. And then the breath work.
Yes.
Which I'm just going to throw in, it could really help as an air conservation technique when you are in an ideal atmosphere, trying to conserve a limited amount of air in a bottle. So maybe learning how to breathe in a controlled way isn't the worst thing.
Yeah.
Not terrible.
And I've got to link it back to biology. What we're doing is we're trying to stimulate the vagus nerve. So it's a specific kind of breathing. So it's not go sit in a room and like, yeah, I'm good. No, it has to be very mindful. And I know a lot of us in medical school were taught box breathing. Those of you who weren't, it's 4 seconds of an inhale, 4-second hold, 4-second exhale, 4-second hold, repeat. This is great, but this was designed to allow us to start regulating just a little bit, to start getting some light switches turned back on so we can start that IV, we can do what we need to do while we still have a good steady flow of adrenaline. What we're doing instead for this breathing technique, you want to double your exhale. And in fact, more than double it if you can. So if it looks like a 4-second inhale, 8-second exhale, and do as big of a breath as you can, with the purposes of putting pressure on your lungs and vagueling yourself down in a way.
Yeah. Nice.
Takes a long time to go from one nervous system to another, but the vagus nerve can certainly help us slow our heart rates down, feel like we're in a safer place. Again, it just helps the body move to safety a little bit easier.
Nice. So while we're talking about taking care of ourselves, are there other concerning behaviors that are very common in our population that we use as stress relief that you typically see in your practice?
We talked about alcohol, and it can definitely get to be a little more than that. There's plenty of co-occurring addiction that happens. And I say addiction because, here, let me expand on my definition of addiction. because it's not always just chemical. It's people saying, oh, I'm not on crack. I'm not, buying meth. But we forget about process addictions. Things like inappropriate eating or eating in one way that does not serve your body. Too much, too little. Gambling, sex addictions. Those are all processes that are just trying to help us regulate. And then alcohol is the other big one because it very easily flies under the radar.
So the maybe the recognition piece of this is that, like you talk about, like I got to reach for that booze, like I need that one. It's the same kind of impulsive need. Man, it's one of those days I need to this.
Yes.
That's in the moment probably not the most enlightening moment. You're like, oh, I heard that before. I shouldn't do that. But really, that's what it looks like when it's the I need behavior, I need substance, I need whatever. You're saying that's our not really healthy response to it. That's where we start talking about some of those addictive behaviors.
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, we are, I think all of us, we're just trying to decompress from a heavy day, from a stressful day. Maybe it was a hell of a shift. We are just looking for ways to self-soothe. We need to be very mindful of how we're doing that. Because unfortunately, alcohol, sex, drugs, gambling, scrolling on social media, they're Band-Aids because we're not actually moving the body through that process. It's self-soothing in the moment, but it doesn't get us the result that we need.
Interesting. Which is that detox and resetting the system.
Yes. And it's very human of us. Like I said, we're just looking for self-soothing, but not all of us know how to do it appropriately. Maybe we've just never learned.
So for those of us who may not know how to self-soothe appropriately, or like, man, this sounds a lot like me, I'm kind of too far gone because F that, not going to work anyway. Why bother giving it attention, even though it is me to the T? Where do we go from there? Where do we go from self-soothing doesn't work, or I don't even know, and past that?
I mean, that is tricky because you can't, even if like a friend were to see some of these behaviors and reach out, that would be a very delicate conversation. It's hard to point out to someone, hey, you're messing up, or hey, this doesn't look like it's working for you. So there's a piece of it. We do kind of have to hit ourselves over the heads. We have to be at a point where this is painful enough, I must change. This is uncomfortable enough, I must find a different way. Some people do just have to hit that point all by themselves.
And
if you're at this point and you're listening to this,
yeah, here comes the scary part. And then where do we turn?
To counseling.
Oh yeah, the professional.
Yes.
Which, I mean, I say tongue in cheek, should not be a scary thing.
It really shouldn't be. Yeah.
If I want to get better at lifting, I can go hire a trainer. If I want to get better at running, I can go find a track coach. Like all these fitness things I want to get better at, there's somebody that's a specialist in that, and I go hire them to do it. If I want to eat better and learn about food, I can go hire a dietitian, a nutrition person, right? We go to the doctor. We take people to doctors to go get some specialized care. And I don't know where it really comes from no, it's not like a physical problem. So, which really it is, as we learned, this is a physical problem. We just can't see it. And it just comes with a lot of that scary stigma for some reason. So that was your thoughts. We get to this point, we get to, I need some professional help. Tell us your thoughts here. Like, how do we get somebody, not how do we get somebody through the door? What are some of your thoughts on relating to the experience of somebody coming through the door or getting past this fear of that?
I can speak from my own experience from being a paramedic, struggling, but not knowing what to do about any of this. We're helpers. We are the help. When things go totally south, we're supposed to know how to fix these things. And maybe there's a point at which that we do know, quote, how to fix them, but we're not executing it. We're not following through with that. I think that is a very frustrating space to be in where, well, I know the things that I should be doing, but I don't know how to do it. And then it can't be that bad. And we downplay and we invalidate ourselves and we invalidate each other, and that the struggle is real. Other barrier to finding a counselor is that not every counselor is a good fit. That is something I don't think I can say enough. Finding, or the counseling in and of itself, sure, it's these coping skills. Sure, it's these tangible things that you get from your counselor. But what really heals, the healing part of counseling, is the relationship that you form with your counselor. It's having another human look you in the eye and say, hey, you're not broken. You just need some help, and here's this help. And so looking at it from that perspective, that the relationship is the most important thing, it means you got to find the right person. And unfortunately, not every counselor knows about first responders, knows the culture, knows, well, what the hell does RSI mean? What do you mean they code it? Like, explain me through this. That can definitely be a barrier. I don't want to explain my job and my life to my counselor. I want someone that already kind of knows, and we can just jump right into this.
Yeah. That was a lot of my struggle. That the first mental health professional I came across told me that I don't know what your problem is. You haven't really encountered anything problematic or traumatic. So like you just need to get over it and go back to work. And super neat. That felt really good.
Ouch.
Because as you described this, getting into a hard spot and hitting that rock bottom area, that's where I found myself before I allowed myself to realize it, because denial is powerful. It's really powerful. But to have that be the first interaction was like, it's a blow in itself. But to be where I was, that'd be the man. So let's be real, it's scary. Like, you go put yourself out there and somebody can give you this response. Like, that was a highly trained, certified mental health professional. Good God. And it took me, the counselor that I loved, that I got the most benefit out of this relationship, was with for years, and still would be if I didn't move out of the area, was probably number 6.
Oh, wow.
4, 5, 6. That there were some decent ones in there, but like I said, this relationship, like it's cool. Like, we're all right. But that was the one that I got to this point of looking forward to it, because I learned what I need to learn. I get better understanding about what things are causing me trouble. I know with me personally, that caused me an awful lot of trouble if I didn't understand things or why this was this thing. So to gain some of that, even just understanding, like, it didn't change anything. I just had a different perspective of it. But get to this point of looking forward to the time with that person. So.
Yeah, it's a very unique relationship because it feels like a friend. You're sharing intimate details of your life. And I can say, from the counselor perspective, I really deeply care for my clients. When there's times that I can't see them for a few weeks for whatever reason, I do step back. I'm like, God, I miss them. Like, I wish I could text them, because it is a real relationship, regardless of the boundaries that are set within it. There's real connection there, and that's so important. And again, it can be kind of like dating. You're not going to connect with everyone. You're not going to want to date everyone. So if at first you find a counselor, you see someone that specializes in first responders, and maybe it's not even something you can put your finger on, like your experience, they completely invalidated you and shut you down. If that happens, definitely call me. We'll go yell at them. No, but even if it's just as simple as like, I just didn't like them. Or, not for me. There's not a counselor on this planet. Well, at least they shouldn't take it personally. Because maybe the counselor was feeling it too. Maybe they didn't connect with you. That's always possible.
So keep shopping.
Yes.
Right? Well, actually, this has been fantastic. Thank you for this conversation. And I want to see if there's any other comments. We're gonna close this and bring it home by talking about all the things we just did with the therapeutic matching, with finding this right person and getting past some of the scarier pieces of going and getting out there. Are there any other comments you want to include, or any of the things that we didn't get to talk about today?
No, I mean, I think we really hit the high points, because we can't talk about burnout without talking about cumulative stress. It rolls right into it. And then what you can do about it. All of, or not all of, but a lot of the coping skills and the tools that I pulled from, it's called Completing the Stress Cycle. Great book. It's called the Burnout book. It's geared more towards women, but the research was solid about, hey, use all of these hormones Give them a purpose. Put them somewhere. Complete the cycle of stress. Don't let it just end with, meh, I'm off shift and the stress is over. Help your body out.
Nice. Gotcha. Well, thank you again. I think it was very helpful. A little bit too relatable, but okay. Right. Right. Appreciate y'all listening. Hopefully you took something away, and we will catch you for the next one.
Thank you.